Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome back to Learn to Read Quran. So in today's lesson we are covering this. This is the first of the Noon and Meme rules. The name of it in the transliteration from the Arabic is Idhaar, which translates as, well, keeping something clear. Yeah, so keeping something clear. So it's clearly pronounced. And there are going to be quite a few lessons after this one about the meme and the noon because they have a few rules that I feel are basic to the beginner. They need to be known really. And sometimes my students do, I think, sometimes feel like, oh my goodness, are these rules ever going to finish? I promise you they will. There are four main rules. And inshallah, today we will cover the first and the easiest of them. So if you look at the first example on line 1, you'll see a meme with a fatha, a noon with a sukoon. And that actually is the rule that we're talking about here with this noon. When you see a noon with a sukoon, that is this rule here, the clear pronunciation of the noon. What do I mean by clear? I mean, how else would I pronounce this if I wasn't going to pronounce it clearly? Well, the rules about meme and noon are all to do with our friendly noise, the ghunnah. Yeah, we've met this before, haven't we? We've met the ghunnah before when we've had a meme with a shadda or a noon with a shadda. But there are other occasions where the ghunnah is also heard, or maybe I should say the ghunnah is also held so that it is heard. But in this first of the noon and meme rules, we are talking about when the ghunnah is not held, when the noon or the meme is just pronounced clearly. And that is denoted by the fact that the noon has the sukoon actually physically written on it. And that might sound like a strange way of phrasing it, but as we go through the other rules in future lessons, you will see why I put it that way. So here, this is just a page of reading really, but just to notice that the noon has a sukoon, and when it has the sukoon written on it, you don't hold the ghunnah. So this is just man, as, la, ma, an, hum. So you can see here that the noon has a sukoon. Actually, also the meme has a sukoon written there on it, which means that I do not hold the ghunnah on the noon or the meme. I just give each of those a little bit of extra time just because every letter with sukoon, just give it a proper amount of time. Otherwise, you do lose the sound of the letter, but I'm not going to hold the ghunnah. So just for argument's sake and just as a teaching point, if I read this word here in the middle incorrectly and I ignored the fact that I'm not holding the ghunnah and I went ahead and I held it, instead of saying an, I would say an, but that would be incorrect. The sukoon is telling me that there is no ghunnah being held. So an, hum. Okay. Fa, man, kha, fa. Hopefully everybody spotted that 2 count stretch. Let's carry on. Wa, in, ha, kam, ta. So neither on the noon or on the meme did I hold the ghunnah. Both had a sukoon, so both of them are subject to this rule here, the clear rule, the idhaar rule. Okay. Ya, kun, gha, niyan. So the noon here is joining into the ya, and the ya has a tanween there. So it is ghaniyan. Okay. Then I have an, am, tu. Again, the noon with its sukoon, the meme with its sukoon, it's subject to this rule of idhaar. I do not hold the ghunnah. Now there is something that we need to get our minds round, that a noon, and these rules of noon that we are starting today, and in the subsequent lessons we will carry on with, the noon rules also apply to the double vowel rules, the tanween, the tanween of fatha, the double fatha, the tanween of kasra, the double kasra, and the tanween of damma, the double damma. And so that means the presentation of the tanween is actually important for us to look at. Here on line 3, we go through that concept. So we have a waw with a fatha, a ra with a fatha, a qaf with a fatha. None of that is remarkable, but what we want to look at is the tanween. So the tanween here is written stacked. What do I mean by that? I mean that they're identically one on top of the other. We have, if you remember in previous lessons, seen where the tanween can be written, sliding. So in other words, rather than this appearance, we would have this appearance, where it is not written directly one above the other. This one here in our example is, and that is what I'm pointing out. When the tanweens are stacked, when the double vowels like this are directly one above the other, it is equivalent to if we had a noon with a sukoon for the purposes of this rule, which means that when we see the tanween stacked like that, we do not hold the ghunnah. So you can see, you can most probably make out that when we see the tanween sliding, like I've done in that little diagram there, then something different will happen. But let's not jump the gun. Let's just look at what we have in front of us, which is the stacked tanween. So this becomes wa, ra, qa, tin, illa, the double, the 2 count stretch there. But the main thing here was those double kasras. I did not hold the ghunnah because these double kasras were stacked. So if I recited this incorrectly, it would be wa, ra, qa, tin, and I would sit there singing away, the noise coming out my nose as a ghunnah, but that would be incorrect. The presentation of the stacked tanween tells me that I do not hold the ghunnah. Okay, then we have bu, you, the 2 count stretch there. Ten, look at those 2 fathas. They are stacked. They are not sliding. They are directly one on top of the other. So that presentation of the tanween of fatha tells me I do not hold the ghunnah. So buyutan, mi, ni, na. Then we have wa, si, on. These dhammas are the same as the stacked kasra or the stacked fatha, because the other presentation of 2 dhammas we have seen before is to open dhammas like that. But this presentation of the double dhamma, where it kind of looks like you have a dhamma with a hat on top like that, that is the equivalent of a stacked tanween. That is the stacked tanween, if you like. And so I do not hold the ghunnah when the dhamma, double dhamma, is in this presentation. So wasi on, a, li. Where's my pen gone? Li, mun. And again, this is stacked double dhamma, so I would not hold the ghunnah. Now, when do I hold ghunnah? When do I not hold ghunnah? It is actually to do with what comes after either the noon that has the sukoon, or the meme that has the sukoon, or the double fatha or double kasra or double dhamma. It is to do with the letter that comes after it. just very quickly, you can put your fingers in your ears at this point if it becomes too much information, just very quickly to mention that it's to do with the fact that the letter coming after these noons, these memes, these tanweens, is a letter that comes from the throat, but it is sufficient just to be able to see a noon with a sukoon and know that you would not hold the ghunnah, or to see a meme with a sukoon and know that you would not hold the ghunnah, or to see the presentation of the stacked tanweens and thereby know that you would not hold the ghunnah. You would not necessarily need to know which letters were in the throat, are pronounced from the throat, to be able to read the noon, the meme, and the tanween correctly. Okay, so that's a bit of good news, isn't it? Let's carry on line 4. This is carrying on, showing us the presentation of tanween that shows us that we do not hold the ghunnah. So we have I, fuwan. So I had to join the fa into the wow because the wow had a shadda. That means I must join. So I, fuwan. The n noise comes from my stacked tanween. Gh, fu, run. Again, a stacked tanween. I am not holding the ghunnah when I see the tanween looking like that. Ha, ki, min. Notice the stacked kasra tanween. A, li, min. Again, the stacked kasra tanween. I do not hold the ghunnah. So I would not say hakimin. I would not hold the ghunnah because of the way the presentation of the tanween is. And like I say, it isn't something random. There is always a logical reason behind any of the rules that we go through. I don't go into them in that much detail at this level, just for the sake of brevity, just for the sake of keeping things clear as well. And this is the more practical approach I found with my students over the many years that I've taught, that sometimes it's just easier to be able to read what you see rather than understanding the absolute wheres and whyfores as to why you're reading it the way like that. So, for example, my example that I usually give with my students is that when you learn to drive a car, you learn how to drive it. You don't learn everything that's going on in the engine so that you can drive it. You just drive by learning how to move the steering wheel, the gears, the pedals. And this is effectively how I'm teaching you in this beginner's course. Let's carry on. Line 5, we have wa, aj. Don't forget the qalqala, everybody. Run. There we go. We have the stacked damma tanween, so I do not hold the ghunnah. A, the, 2-count stretch, and a heavy 2-count stretch because of the va, mun. Ma, ta, 2-count stretch. An, stacked fatha tanween, we do not hold the ghunnah. Ha, sa, nan, stacked tanween of fatha, we don't hold the ghunnah. Just as a side point, just as a point to look at here, see this shadda here that's starting the beginning of our word. Don't let that throw you. Sometimes you will find shaddas at the beginning of a word. Even in Quran, maybe an ayah will start with a letter with a shadda. And now we know that a letter with a shadda needs to be joined up to, but if it's at the beginning of an ayah, it makes you wonder, well, what comes before? What am I joining up to this letter with shadda? Well, one thing again that I tell my students, that Quran is written as if you take a breath with the lungs the size of the Amazon and you start reading Quran at Surah Fatiha, and you carry on and carry on and carry on without taking a breath until you get to the very last chapter, the very last surah of the Quran, Surah An-Nas. And so it's written as if you were never going to stop reading. How beautiful that you'd never want to stop reading Quran. So the punctuation, if you like, or the marks that are written on there are written as if you were going to just keep on reading. So in other words, you would not stop at the end of one ayah. You would just keep on reading and keep on reading. But it is the sunnah, there is the way of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, to stop at the end of each ayah. So we can stop, alhamdulillah. Imagine if we had to read the whole Quran in one breath. But sometimes you can see then a letter with a shadda at the beginning of a word or the beginning of an ayah. So I just thought I'd point that out because we have used an example to show that that can be the case. We're carrying on. Line 6, we have ha, 2 stretch, the, 2 stretch, la, shay, there we go. There's our tanween in the stacked presentation. That means we do not hold the ghunnah. A, ji, bun. Again, stacked tanween of dhamma. You do not hold the ghunnah. Let's just remove a little bit of this so that we can look at the next line more clearly. We have wa, la, 2 stretch. You, zaki, him. So here our meme has a sukoon, so I do not hold the ghunnah, but I do say the meme clearly, giving that little bit of extra time for the fact that it has a sukoon. Wa, la, hum. Again, there we go, meme with sukoon. A, the, 2 stretch. Bun. There's the presentation of the stacked dhamma tanween. That means we do not hold the ghunnah. A, li, mun. Okay, so that was all about the noon and the tanween mainly, but also we've seen occasions where the meme had the sukoon, and we'll see that here on this line as well. We have la kum fi ha anna. Now here on this letter here, the noon that had the shadda, we must make sure that we sound out the ghunnah, yeah, because any noon with shadda or any meme with shadda gets that extra nasal sound of the ghunnah. So anna, hum, but the meme doesn't get a hold of ghunnah. Ka, nu, and we know that any letter here we have the alif with that circle, we ignore that, so we can ignore that from the pronunciation. So please do repeat this lesson a few times so that you can be clear, excuse the pun, but be clear as to what this rule is all about. And you might have the question, you might not, but you might have the question that why are there many rules about noon and meme, this being the first of them? Why are there many rules? Because of the characteristic of the ghunnah. The ghunnah is an incredibly important, I want to outline it in red. Why isn't it happening? I want it in red. The ghunnah is an incredibly important element of the recitation of Quran. So when it is held or when it is not held, does get quite a bit of time and a few rules to go with it. And it's so important that even at this beginner's level, I feel it important enough to include here so that you don't make a mistake of not holding the ghunnah when you should or holding the ghunnah when you shouldn't. So this is the first of those rules. It is the easiest of them. So I'm hoping that when you look at this page and you understand how it works, then you will be able to come into the next lesson with, here we go again, pun, a clear mind, so that you can absorb what we will cover in next time's lesson, inshallah. But keep on practicing. You know that's the name of the game. And inshallah, I'll see you all again next time. Assalamu alaikum.